the CR Zone Explained, Littonsville in the 21st century, and mapping our tree canopy. All that and the latest news coming up next on Montgomery Plans. Thanks for watching Montgomery Plans. I'm Michael Brown. We're here to bring you up to date on important land use issues facing those who live and work in Montgomery County. On today's show, we'll clarify the new commercial residential zone and how it would change strategic parts of Montgomery County. Next, we'll visit Littonsville, a close-knit community facing challenges in the future. And we'll unveil a new online tree canopy mapping tool. But first, let's go to the top news-making decisions of the Montgomery County Planning Board.
Welcome to Plans in the News. I'm Susan Kennedy. We hear it in the news all the time. Our area has some of the worst congestion in the country. But just really how bad is it? Every 2 years, the Planning Department embarks on a study to see just how clogged our roads are and if there are any new trends to report. And for the most part, the most recent report brings no surprises. Montgomery County's traffic congestion has stayed at the same level for the past 2 years. That according to the latest mobility assessment report. This biannual study found that nearly half of the intersections studied were carrying more traffic than they were built to handle. This year's report also looked at other mobility options: walking, cycling, taking bus, or metro. And said increasing numbers of non-auto drivers is key to combating congestion. As in previous reports, planners listed the top 10 most congested intersections in the county.
We look at what we call the critical lane volume, and critical lane volume basically is the definition of congestion, our measure of congestion. What we've done is we'll rank these particular numbers based on that, and that's how we were able to get our top 10.
Coming in first is Old Georgetown Road at Democracy Boulevard in Bethesda, followed by Darnestown Road at Riffle Ford Road in North Potomac and Shady Grove Road at Chokecherry Lane in Rockville.
The congestion has gone up slightly. There are steady, increases. There's been a 1% increase for the county for vehicle miles traveled. We're seeing the rebound of congestion and roadway miles traveled. So when you compare it to the recession of the drop in miles traveled, we're starting to see a steady increase from our economy. Even though the economy, it went down, but we're starting to see that kind of reflection of the economy's going back up slowly, and also vehicle miles traveled is starting to go up slowly as well.
The report finds that metro ridership has remained steady with close to 2 million passengers in fiscal year 2010. Yet more people are cycling thanks to efforts to expand the paths and sidewalks that feed into a growing countywide bike network. That's certainly something that we weren't dealing with a couple of years ago. Have we seen a jump?
We have seen a jump, and it's something that's very popular and something that's more increasingly popular for a lot of residents, especially if they have accessibility to employment and things like that using bikes. So a lot of bike commuting, a lot of people bike to our job here and all over in the downtown areas, and especially in Montgomery County, but also looking at pedestrians and seeing whether these bike paths are being utilized and things of that sort. So we like to get kind of that overall picture and kind of reflecting that to the resident.
Planners are also encouraging new development near transit to get more folks out of their cars. The information gathered in the report is used to prioritize transportation projects. It also provides recommendations for various improvements to overly congested intersections. It's been years in the making, but Holy Cross Hospital has cleared a major hurdle in its plans to build a new hospital in Germantown. The 93-bed facility will be the first new hospital in Montgomery County in 30 years. In October, the Planning Board gave the green light to the hospital's proposed preliminary and site plans, allowing hospital officials to apply for a building permit.
The most important thing that was definitely on our radar was the relationship with the college and the hospital itself. We definitely want it to be integrated into the existing campus so that students who are interning at the hospital facility can walk or ride a bike or, drive and park their car and fairly easily do both of those from college to, where they're getting their experience from.
The hospital will improve access to high-quality health care in this fast-growing part of the county. It's the first hospital in the nation located on a community college campus with an educational partnership that will foster a special relationship with students studying medicine.
The recent Germantown Employment Area Sector Plan suggested that the Life Sciences Center, or we call it the LSC zone, was appropriate for the Germantown campus, Montgomery College at Germantown. The entire campus is about 227 acres, and the entire campus received the Life Science Center zoning. And the vision in the master plan was that this would become a science and technology park. And within that park, you would have the academic disciplines from the college that would interact with the technology disciplines that would develop elsewhere on the park. The Holy Cross Hospital is the first private development that is going to create that synergy between the academia and the private sector.
Planners took a close look at the aesthetics of the plan. It will meet LEED Silver certification and have a healing garden for patients, visitors, and staff. Also part of the plan, adequate signage on county roads for residents to find the hospital.
We wanted to make it easy in terms of finding the hospital facility and the surrounding communities, because there's some residential properties to the east, fairly high density, and so making it accessible to them off of Middlebrook Road was important. And then while they're there, that they actually get something other than just the healing process, but that they actually get, some outdoor facilities, and that, it's a good place to be all around, indoors and outdoors.
The hospital is expected to open in 2014. I'm Susan Kennedy for Plans in the News. We at Montgomery Plans are proud to be recognized with the 2011 Gold Marcom Award for the Assets and Challenges of Wheaton. The Marcom Awards is an international creative competition recognizing outstanding achievement by communications professionals.
Welcome back. To accommodate all the people who want to live in Montgomery County in the future, we need to discover new ways to grow. With only 4% of land left to develop, our focus must turn to redeveloping our aging commercial areas. One way planners suggest we accomplish this is with a new type of zoning. Here's Valerie Burton with more.
The County Council recently adopted a new set of zones to encourage a variety of uses in some of the county's commercial areas. The commercial residential zones, or CR for short, are intended to mix housing with retail and business. Until now, this mix of zones was rare outside central business districts, resulting in lots of commercial-only zoning, something that worked well 50 years ago, but not anymore. Most commercial areas in Montgomery County reflect a 1950s style of suburban retailing, strip malls with acres of surface parking accessed primarily by car. The result is underused land and retail strips that are dead outside of business hours. But according to Josh Sloan, who wrote the original draft, the new CR zone will help change all that.
So the CR zones were developed specifically for redeveloping commercial and mixed-use areas that we have now. And that's what's called infill development. We're not developing on new greenfields or agricultural, residential areas. We're really trying to focus our growth onto existing commercial and mixed-use areas. And so the CR zone was developed as a tool for that, because our other commercial zones don't infill well. They don't provide the kind of development standards we need.
The CR zone achieves a blend of uses where residents can work, shop, and access services not far from where they live. The zone promotes interactive streetscapes, provides public spaces, and creates jobs. And when placed near transit, it can help counter sprawl. Best of all, it is extremely flexible.
There are three classifications. There's a general CR zone, which allows a large amount of flexibility in uses, densities, and heights. There is a CR town zone, which reduces the number of allowed uses and reduces the range of densities and heights allowed. Then there's a CR neighborhood zone, which has very restricted number of allowed uses and a very restricted range of densities and heights allowed.
Then, within each classification, there is a menu of options to ensure that what is proposed makes sense for a given community.
The commercial residential zone is set out to allow master planners and eventually the county council in each master plan area to fine-tune the amount of residential and commercial allowed in mixed-use development, to set maximum densities for those mixes and total density, and to set maximum heights.
Combining commercial and residential uses has picked up steam since the 2010 White Flint Sector Plan emphasized higher densities and heights. The recently completed North Bethesda Market is an example of the type of project that will be allowed under CR. It features restaurants and stores, like this very popular Whole Foods market, with housing above. Parking is shared and located in the rear, all to encourage people to get out of their cars.
We're trying to provide enough parking for a mix of uses. So when you have residential, you have office, you have commercial services, you need less parking because you can park once and then you can go to everywhere you need. You don't have to park, drive another mile, park, drive another mile for each of these different things in a segregated environment.
Within the next 10 years, more projects like this one will break ground in White Flint. Mid-Pike Plaza is one of them. That's where I met up with White Flint planner Nkosi Yearwood. He told me that beginning in 2013, this sea of parking lots is expected to be transformed.
A portion of the strip center will be taken down, and you'll see several new buildings. Overall, the sketch plan allows up to 3.2 million square feet of new development. Of that, approximately 1,500 units are here on the 20-plus acres. Most of the parking will be either structured or portions will be on the ground. So you'll find new streetscape improvements from Old Georgetown Road heading north on the property.
Now this is one of several proposals we're seeing on Rockville Pike, including the existing North Bethesda Market.
Yes.
Can you put this in a little context for us? What else is happening on Rockville Pike?
Well, along the pike, what's happening is that a series of property owners are seeing that vision and taking advantage of it, and knowing that instead of having a surface parking lot, you could actually have a place where people could have businesses, you could actually live. So North Bethesda Market 2, which is adjacent to North Bethesda Market 1, will have another development there with another signature building, a tall multifamily residential building up to 300 feet in height. And then further down the pike at White Flint Mall, they will be submitting a sketch plan in December that looks at redeveloping that plus more than 40 acres of that property, which will be more than 5.2 million square feet of development total and about 2,500 units. So that's going to redevelop over time over the next 20 years.
Paul Meyer moved into this high-rise condominium on Nicholson Lane 17 years ago. Eager to have an impact on how his neighborhood would grow around him, Paul got involved with the White Flint Sector Plan, which was approved last year.
I'm a pro-smart growth person. The county, when I came here, which 44 years ago, was 270,000. It's now 900,000. Where are people moving? People like me want to be near where the action is, near Metro, shopping, retail, movie theaters, restaurants, all those things that are kind of fun. So we're looking forward basically to having all the things kind of at our fingertips.
So how will the commercial residential zone benefit Montgomery County as a whole?
I look at these zones basically as commercial resources. We've got to encourage more businesses in this area. We need the taxes. Our county's not exactly tax flush. I look at this as a potential cash cow. If you don't change the zoning and they have a capped height and they have a capped density, they're going to cap what they build. So the fact that they now can make money will make such a difference because they can put the money in here that makes it work.
These higher densities are allowed under what's called an optional method of development in the CR zone. Going this route means developers must also provide community benefits, such as well-conceived public spaces, environmental features, daycare, and more.
We've also gotten increases in affordable housing, moderately priced dwelling units. We've gotten a lot of additional open space that's not required by the zone, but it's a public benefit to provide above a certain amount and provide the parks that were envisioned by the master plans. We've gotten provisions for public art like we see in Silver Spring and Bethesda, but not in many of our other areas. We've gotten public benefits for other environmental things like green roofs and things that work together with the stormwater, but we don't allow people to provide something required by law and get a benefit for it. We're really looking for them to go above and beyond what's required by law.
White Flint is an area ideal for higher densities. For one thing, it is well served by transit. In other parts of the county, the CR zone will scale down. Kensington is one example. Planner Fred Boyd explains.
This is a small town shopping center with an auto orientation, as you can see from the activity behind us here at lunchtime. It is a place where people drive their cars and they come to, in this case, buy hardware supplies or get lunch or take care of other neighborhood business. It's working as you would expect a shopping center of this type to work. What we are proposing is a mixed-use zone called the commercial residential zone, which will give us an opportunity to have both commercial and some residential activity at this location.
What could that look like?
Something that would have a little bit of ground floor retail. You would still see close to the street stores, shops, windows, doors. There would be wide sidewalks perhaps, and maybe somebody would have the opportunity, if they had a restaurant, to have a sidewalk cafe, and you'd have a much livelier street. On top of that, possibly in the same building, most likely in the same building, you might have apartments. A modest number of them, but apartments nonetheless that we hope will activate the street.
A mix of uses is already very popular in the downtown areas of Bethesda, Rockville, and Silver Spring. Each are walkable, attractive communities that are close to Metro and which feature a variety of public amenities.
But those kind of things, for example, in Silver Spring, took millions of dollars of public money to create that kind of environment. It didn't have the zone in place, really, to get development through the private sector. So the CR zone is developed so the private sector can build these kind of places without the infrastructure costs for the county.
Another benefit of the new CR zone is that most new development will be subject to much greater scrutiny and public dialogue. Existing commercial zones in the county generally do not require planning board review or public participation. The new CR zone requires developers to submit plans for most sites. Find more information on the new CR zone on our website.
In this episode of Around Town, we're in Littonsville, where plans for the Purple Line could mean big changes for this historic neighborhood. Okay, Roland, here we are in Littonsville, Silver Spring, a small little community just outside of Silver Spring, light industrial. What are some of the challenges that this community faces as it looks to redevelop?
This is a fabulous community. It's wonderful being here with the folks who are so vested and have stayed. There's people here who lived here for 40 years. And what we're hearing as we move into our sector plan analysis is wide range of housing, a lot of affordable housing, and they need services. This is one of those great local businesses that have such a broad appeal to a larger area, but also serve the local community. How long have you been in Littonsville?
The Creative Cakes has been here for a little over 10 years, and I purchased it 4 years ago.
And how are things going?
Great. Every day is cake day.
So the challenge here is there will be a Purple Line station along the strip of Brookvale Road up towards the crest of the hill. And then the proposal was to put behind it the maintenance yard. There will be two of them on the Purple Line, one in Prince George's County, one in Montgomery County, where they'll pull the trains out of service to maintain them. The existing railway line where the Purple Line will be coming through, and what you'll be able to see here is what happens for access. So here we see the Capitol Crescent Trail.
Right.
Okay? Then we see the apartment building. And basically the area from the apartment building, as we pan across the trail over to Brookvale Road, is where they want to put the MTA is proposing the trail, the Purple Line station, and the maintenance yard.
But we don't think that's the best use of this space right here. Is that right? The neighbors don't think this is the right place for that train yard.
And that's correct. And in reality, this is a really good example where the neighbors know best, because they want access to the trail, they want access to Brookvale Road, and they want access to the ability to grow the community and the services they have accessible to them. And this is the only place that can happen. Now, the challenge here is this neighborhood already has, on the other side of our tracks here, the WSSC maintenance yard, and just down the end of this road is the ride-on bus facility. This community already has an overabundance of maintenance facilities. What we're hoping to do with the community, the MTA, and Valerie Irvin, Ike Leggett, and Chris Van Hollen had a meeting about this, was to see if we can somehow consolidate that facility for the train yard down here somewhere, because this is the future growth area of Littonsville. If we sterilize this land for that kind of infrastructure, we are forgoing the future cost of what could happen here, which is a benefit both to the community and to the county, because one of the things we have to do with our Purple Line stations, where it's possible, and this is one of the locations where the community says it's possible, is maximize that investment, maybe putting some 5- or 6-story buildings along this section of Brookvale Road, which will help generate more tax revenue to help pay for the Purple Line. The folks in Littonsville are wonderful. They understand that there needs to be a maintenance yard. They just want to see it happen the right way.
Now we have a good idea of what's going to happen here. Let's go on over to the Caulfield Community Center and talk to some of the longtime residents about their vision for their neighborhood.
Great. We're standing here with what could be the longest collective memory of residents of any neighborhood in Montgomery County, and I'll just start with Charlotte and ask them to introduce themselves.
5 generations of my family has lived in this community.
I've been in this community 40 years.
Been here for 65 years.
We were over there looking at that proposed site as to where that rail yard is to go, and that looks like it's a site that could possibly be utilized in a much better way for future growth here in Littonsville. Is that part of your argument as well?
That's true. That's true. If they put the maintenance yard there, it's just going to be dead property there. It won't create any income for the county, and it will not allow for development of the community.
And we're asking MTA if they might possibly find another spot not far away where they could put that would service more than just our neighborhood, but a number of neighborhoods.
No. I think you were saying, or someone was saying, if the yard goes where they're proposing it, it blocks your access to the Capitol Crescent Trail.
That's correct, it does. And I think it would be unfair to do that for the people that are bicyclists, walkers, mothers with their children trying to take a nice stroll, to be blocked off away from that.
Sounds like they're taking a look at what you guys have said, though. It sounds like they're considering that the state is going to look at those other options. Does that satisfy you at this point? What do you think, Charlotte? Do you think that they're genuine in what they're telling you, that they're going to take a close look at these decisions?
I think they are very genuine. They agreed with our position here, and the reasons why we would not prefer to have the maintenance yard in this area.
And if the yard goes in where it's going, that's the last bastion, so to speak, of something that can change, and it's going to change away from what the community feels they need. And I have to say, they make a good point.
And thanks so much for taking the time for being with us today. So it was really nice to meet you, Pat. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
We appreciate your coming. It's nice to meet you too.
And now you can give your hug.
See you later.
Okay.
Edna, good to see you.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Pat,
Bless you,
we'll see you later, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I'm holding my penny. I'm holding my penny.
A healthy tree canopy, the layer of leaves and branches that cover the ground when viewed from above, is important for the environment. Thanks to decades of forest conservation, Montgomery boasts a significant tree canopy. However, many of the county's urbanized areas are lacking shade, right where it's needed the most. Montgomery Hills, a community just north of downtown Silver Spring, was found to have the lowest canopy cover of any urban area in the county. Thus challenged, this community decided to act.
Okay, so grab your shovels.
On a crisp fall Saturday morning, Cub Scout Troop number 759 came out in full force to help the Linden Hills Citizens Association plant some trees. Spearheaded by Conservation Montgomery, the goal was to add to the tree canopy in this shopping center along Georgia Avenue, just inside the Beltway.
Found some rocks.
They were motivated by the findings of environmental planner Catherine Nelson.
The Linden Hills Civic Association asked for a canopy analysis for their neighborhood, and when I showed them the analysis, they had a pretty good canopy cover for the whole area, but the amount of unshaded impervious surface was disproportionately large in Linden Hills. And this shopping center was a big part of that.
Not having enough shade, especially in areas with lots of pavement, contributes to what's known as the heat island effect.
In an urban area, these impervious surfaces like the blacktop or the black roofs soak up that heat and then re-radiate it back and heat up our buildings, heat up our cars, and we also are very warm in this type of a setting in the summertime.
So, planting these trees in this parking lot will help reduce the amount of heat generated in the coming years.
These trees are actually pulling moisture from the ground and they're evaporating it through their leaves. And that is a very cooling effect, as well as blocking the sunshine that might be reaching these surfaces.
The folks in Linden Hills had to request the tree canopy analysis from the county's environmental planners. But now, a new online tool allows anyone to generate the same report right from their home computer. Catherine showed us how it works back at her office.
The steps are that you type in an address, and then you press go, and it takes you to that general area and gives you an air photo. And so if you want to do an analysis of that property or the general neighborhood, you just press this little pie chart and then press start, and then just focus in on the area that you want to do a canopy analysis. I'm just going to close that. So we'll do part of the shopping center plus some of the neighborhood behind the shopping center. So I'm just clicking along the edges of this neighborhood and then double click when you're finished drawing. And you get a little hourglass while you're waiting for it to calculate. And so here's the calculation. Within this particular area, the canopy is 38.3%. Grass and shrubs, about 20%. And then the unshaded buildings and other pavement, that's about 35 to 40%, which is relatively high, the unshaded buildings and pavement. And that's particularly because of this shopping center. What we're hoping is that neighborhoods will look at their tree canopy for a healthy level, but also look at their unshaded imperviousness and begin to zoom into these areas specifically and look for the gaps in the canopy and begin to target those areas for neighborhood tree planting.
Which is exactly what the folks of Linden Hills set out to accomplish.
What they did will probably more than double the existing canopy within that part of the shopping center.
In addition to adding trees to the parking lot, the Boy Scouts also did some planting in the residential part of the neighborhood. In the end, they all seemed to understand the value of their work. Visit our website at montgomeryplanning.org for complete, up-to-date planning information in Montgomery County. There, you'll find ways to access the Planning Department's many services. You can check out our blogs, see what's going on, submit feedback, and follow us on Facebook. Well, that does it for this edition of Montgomery Plans. Join us again next time when we bring you more on the issues that affect quality of life here in Montgomery County. I'm Michael Brown. Thanks for watching.